Welcome to Skin Deep here on SiriusXM Radio, channel 141, HUR Voices. I'm your host, Sharrarne Morton. And as always, I'm so excited to be here with you. I have on today's show the one, the only dynamic Nkechi Taifa. She's a civil and human rights attorney, a scholar activist, and an author. And she's president of the Reparation Education Project and the Taifa Group. And folks, if that doesn't tell you how much of a superpower Taifa is, how about the fact that she serves as a senior fellow for the Center of Justice at Columbia University? She's been on every major TV news platform, and she's spoken to every audience, including the United States Congress, about reparations for African Americans. Y'all have to go buy her book called Black Power, Black Lawyer, My Audacious Quest for Justice. This woman is bad to the bone. So, as I always say, we're going to be doing more than just scratching beneath the surface. You know, here on Skin Deep, we're always talking about Black skin and how beautiful it is and how beautiful we are as a people. And by the way, folks, email me at skindeepradioshow@gmail.com or go to SharronMorton.com and let me know what you think about the show. Stay tuned. We'll be right back with more information you just can't afford to miss here on Skin Deep. Welcome back to Skin Deep. As I mentioned before the break, I have the powerful and audacious freedom and reparations fighter, Miss Nkechi Taifa, here on SiriusXM Radio. Welcome to Skin Deep, Nkechi.
Sharrarne, I am so thrilled to be with you on Skin Deep. How are you, my sister?
I'm so good. I'm so good. I finally have her on the show, folks. I have been wanting her on this show since I met her through our very good friend Pam Perry. So I'm so glad you're here, Nkechi. Listen, I have a lot to cover and we don't have a lot of time. So I have got to find out from you. What does your name mean, Nkechi Taifa, and what made you decide to become a civil and human rights attorney?
All right, now. So my name, Nkechi, my first name means God's gift. And
Okay.
my last name means nation. But, when I got my African name, I adopted an African name when I was 16 years old. I'm flipping through the pages of an African names book. And I see this name, and I didn't know the correct pronunciation back then as a teenager. So I looked at it and it looked like it said Nkechi. Years later, after I'm in college, I find out it really is Nkechi, in like Nkrumah, and the E had the A sound and all that jazz. And I tried to pronounce it the way it would be pronounced if I were an Igbo in Nigeria, but Nkechi had just kind of stuck with my psyche. So I just kept Nkechi, but it basically means God's gift, and Taifa means nation or nationhood.
Oh, I love how you said that you came up with this name when you were young, 16 years old. So you were woke, quote unquote, back then too, huh?
Yeah, well, they didn't call it that then. They just called it crazy or militant or whatever. But I was all that as a teenager. Absolutely.
That's wonderful. What made you decide to become a civil and human rights attorney?
Actually, it dates back to the time when I was a preteen, I guess you could say. I am in my parents' den. They were both educators in DC public school system. And there was this book in the den called A Pictorial History of the Negro in America. And I'm looking through the pages and I see this entry about this 14-year-old boy who was from Chicago, who was visiting relatives in Mississippi, who was found at the bottom of Mississippi's
Oh,
Tallahatchie River. Of
yeah.
course, his name was Emmett Till. And it just left such an impact on me because I was like 5 months old when this lynching occurred. And I'm thinking that all these things about slavery and discrimination happened way back in millions of years ago. I had no concept of time. But to find out that that was in my lifetime, to find out
Mhm.
later on that I'm in first grade when Fannie Lou Hamer is beat to within an inch of her life simply for
Mhm.
trying to register to vote. All these things, Sharon, had an impact on me because these things were in my lifetime, not something centuries ago. And I just vowed that, I wanted to be a part of doing something about it. But actually, the linchpin of it was I'm in junior high school. And this is when Black Studies was first coming into the classrooms. And so we
Mhm.
had Black Studies at both junior high schools. I took the course. And there was this poster on the wall with this Black man with a black beret on his head, with a spear in one hand and a rifle in another hand, sitting in a Grand Slam wicker chair. Of course, it was Huey P. Newton of the Black Panther Party. And all my classmates, all the girls were talking about how fine this brother was. I'm asking the teacher, well, why is he in jail? And I'm saying, why is he represented by white lawyers? Where are the black lawyers to represent black people? And it was really then that I decided I wanted to be one of those lawyers to represent black people and to undo a lot of the injustices that have been done to us.
Wow, Nkechi, I'm so glad that you were conscious back then. You knew what our people had been through and what they were still going through and continue to go through today in 2022. So I can only thank you for going down that path and becoming a civil and human rights attorney. You saw what we needed as a people and you took action. And I'm just so grateful to have you and to know you and to call you my friend. So I wanted to also talk a little bit about reparations, Nkechi. For a lot of people who might not know what it is, I want you to tell them what it is and what is it that you do as president of the Reparation Education Project? Because it seems like everybody else, all the other ethnic groups have gotten reparations except for us. We'll get into that even more. But how did you go from being a civil and human rights attorney to president of the Reparation Education Project?
So actually, I was involved in the reparations movement before I was a civil and human rights attorney. And then I'm going to go back to my teenage years because I'm helping sell Black Panther Party newspapers on the streets of Washington, D.C. I was never a Panther, but I used to help sell their papers. And one day I sat down on the curb and actually opened up the paper and saw their 10-point program, What We Want, What We Believe. And point number 3 talked about payback from slavery. And I said, well, that makes a lot of sense. And intrinsically within my bones, I just knew that it was right, even though I didn't know a whole lot. I didn't know about the massacres in Tulsa, Oklahoma, or Lane, Arkansas, Wilmington, North Carolina. I didn't know about a lot of the things that I know about today, but in my bones, I just knew it was something to be struggled for. So all this time, it was on the fringes, in the Black Power, in the Black nationalist movement, Nation of Islam, and the like. But it hadn't hit the mainstream. But as part of that whole struggle, I was always talking about the issue of reparations. I helped to found an organization, the National Coalition of Blacks for Reparations in America, in 1987. Worked closely with Congressman John Conyers in 1989 when he introduced H.R. 40, the Commission to Study Reparation Proposals for African Americans. But now jump whatever into the 21st century, I did form my own reparation organization, Reparation Education Project, to seek to bring additional value to this issue whose time has come, this issue that is just spreading like fire across this country now since really 2020, George Floyd,
Yeah, yeah.
murders and the like. Everything's coming to the fore, and reparations is one of those issues that's coming to the fore as well.
Finally, finally. So explain to people who don't know what is reparation.
Reparations, yes, indeed. Reparations are forms of compensation that are provided to those who have suffered gross human rights abuses or other forms of widespread, systemic injustices, such as in the aftermath of war or enslavement, in the like. I say, in the context of Black people in America, reparations constitutes essentially 4 elements. Number 1, the formal acknowledgement that there was a historic wrong and an official, unfettered apology. Number 2, the recognition that the injury has continued and still continues down through to today. And number
Mhm.
3, the commitment to redress by the federal government, which sanctioned this enslavement, and by state and local governments and other culpable parties, such as academic and religious institutions and corporations and industries and private estates. And then finally, number 4, the actual compensation, the actual redress in whatever form or forms are agreed upon.
I'm glad you explained that because to me, I can't put a price tag on all of that. I mean, it is what has happened to us as a people from the time they put us on the ships to cross the transatlantic to now, I mean, I don't know what number you can put on it. And by the way, whatever happened to our 40 acres and a mule? That was real. That was reneged on, but I want to find out how is it or what is it that you can do to come up with a number. And also, I believe somebody did apologize. Was it one of the presidents? I can't remember
Okay.
who.
So
I
about this apology, both the House of Representatives and the Senate passed apology bills, but the Senate bill said you cannot use our apology to justify any claim for reparations. So it
are
never
you
was signed by the president, it never became law. The audacity,
the
the audacity.
audacity?
Yeah.
Oh my God.
So
Okay, and
there's never
go
been
ahead.
an official, well, I say unfettered apology, never anything that was signed into law by, by government. Um, Let me see.
And
You
then the
asked me.
price tag, what number?
Oh, okay,
What
so that's something else. Thank you for saying that. How do you put a price tag on over 400 years of what we went through? Another group that I'm involved with called NARC, the National African American Reparations Commission, says no amount
no amount?
no amount of material resources can ever compensate for the ma'afa. That's like what we call the Holocaust of the enslavement era and its living legacies that last down through today. So what will end up happening, Sharrarne, is what we call a negotiated settlement. It's not something that the culpable parties say, well, we're going to give you this to make amends. It's something that has to come from us, from the injured parties ourselves. Now, some people talk about closing the black-white wealth gap. That's absolutely essential, but that is not even the end all to a
No,
reparations settlement. What we talk
that's the
about
start.
in
That's a start, a small start.
it's a start, but we
Which should
must
have been
not.
done anyway.
It is a start, but we must not just rest on that. The harms, I always say, the harms from the enslavement era and beyond were multifaceted. The
And
severities must be multifaceted as well.
will continue to affect us generations later. That's
Yes,
that's why I get so angry when people say, "Oh, well, slavery is over." No, it's
yes,
still affecting us. And prison is nothing but the new slavery. The pipeline from school to prison, that's
you got
slavery.
it.
Okay, so
You
don't get
got
me
it.
started. So listen, we only have a minute and a half left of this segment. I want people to know where they can reach you or how they can reach you or where are you on social media? Tell everybody.
Yes, well, I'm all over social media, but you got to spell that name Nkechi Taifa, Nkechi Taifa. But my organization, you can go to the website, to the internet, www.reparationeducationproject.org. And that's reparation without the S, reparationeducationproject.org.
And when we come back, Nkechi, we're going to talk about your book. I can't wait to talk about that. So listen, folks, I want you to stay tuned right here on SiriusXM channel 141. We will be right back after this break with the powerful Nkechi Taifa. Okay, folks, welcome back to Skin Deep here on SiriusXM Radio, channel 141 HUR Voices. I am here with the civil and human rights advocate, attorney, author, reparations advocate, all of that, Miss Nkechi Taifa, and she is breaking it all down. Nkechi, tell me, why is it so hard for people to, or the government, whomever, to accept the fact that Black folks deserve reparations because so many other ethnicities have gotten reparations? Why can't we?
It is so very daunting. In fact, Sharon, many people don't realize that reparations were in fact paid at the end of the enslavement era. They just weren't paid to us. They were paid to our former white slave owners. In
Mm,
1987 and 1988 in this country, Japanese Americans received reparations for their unjust incarceration during World War II. Over the
mhm.
years, various Native peoples pursuant to the Native lands claims receive reparations, but again, just to a degree, nowhere near what they suffered. But what have we gotten?
Right.
Nothing. We have people coming in um, uh, to this country who get all the benefits and this and that and the other, and still we're always at the bottom of the heap. I
Oh,
talk
yeah.
about some of this in my TED talk on reparations, my TEDx talk. It's called Reparations, an Issue Whose Time Has Come. And I lay out some of these disparities. Why? Why is it
Mhm.
that we're not treated
I
as
don't get it.
others? You
We helped build, not help, we built this country.
yes.
Okay. We built the White House. What is it about us that people say no? I mean, and do you think we will ever get reparations, honestly, Nkechi?
Oh, well, let's put it this way. I am much more optimistic than I have ever been. Why? Because history is being made right now. Right now, the state of California is engaged in historic hearings. They have a reparations task force for the whole state talking
Wow.
about reparations for California. The city of Evanston, Illinois, creatively used tax revenue from the illegal cannabis industry to pay reparations in terms of housing in that jurisdiction. So over 100 jurisdictions across the country now are looking at this issue. The U.S. Conference of Mayors has talked about this issue. Amalgamated Bank has supported the issue. Even Ben and Jerry's ice cream has issued a challenge to other corporations to speak up. Universities, religious institutions. I mean, this issue is just popping all over the country. So yes, I am optimistic. I am
Yeah.
optimistic. In my lifetime, something will be happening.
That's a good thing. And, I am hearing more and more about, jurisdictions, and they're giving land back to Black folks that they stole, the beaches back to Black people that they took. I am starting to see that. And you're right. This all happened during COVID and with the George Floyd murder. That's why I always say COVID was a blessing and a curse. You know what I'm saying? A
Yes.
curse because so many people died from it, unfortunately, but a blessing because it awakened this country and it allowed us to finally see what has been done to Black folks for centuries. George Floyd
Yes.
wasn't the first Black man
No.
who a cop stepped on his neck and killed him, but it was so good that people had their cell phones. They were able to record it. People were at home. Everybody's shut in the house watching TV because of COVID. And they saw this man begging for his mother while they were slowly murdering him. So yes,
Yes.
it's a good thing. I'm so glad to see that and to hear that you believe that reparations is on the way.
Yes.
Let's pivot and talk about your book. I love the title, Black Power, Black Lawyer, My Audacious Quest for Justice. Let me say that again. Black Power, Black Lawyer, My Audacious Quest for Justice. Tell us about the book. Nkechi, what made you write it? What is it all about?
Okay, so the book is my personal story. It is my memoir, and it traces what I call the rebellious journey of a young woman coming of age during the Black Power era and the social justice lawyer that she becomes. That's me. I wrote the book because I wanted this era that impacted me so greatly, particularly when I was a teenager and throughout my 20s. I wanted this era not to be swept under the rug. We tend to go from the civil rights era um, uh, to Black Lives Matter, but there was Black Power movement in between that.
Yes.
Yeah, that we don't hear. I mean, you might hear about the Black Panthers, okay, but you don't hear about a lot of the other the reparations movement. You don't hear about that, and all of that was part and parcel of people whose feet I sat at. I sat at the feet of elders who basically have become just footnotes in history or wiped out of the history books entirely, such as Queen Mother Audley Moore, who was a Garveyite during the 20s. It didn't pass until 1997, but kept the issue of reparations alive for her entire life, influencing civil rights movement, influencing the Black Power movement, influencing Nation of Islam, influencing leaders across the world on the issue of reparations. I sat at the feet of Imari Obadeli of the Republic of New Africa. Most folk have never even heard of him. The feet of the elder Chokwe Lumumba, who later became mayor of Jackson, Mississippi. His son
Mhm.
now holds that position. And I learned a lot, and I wanted the things that I learned from them to be able to pass on to future generations. And a whole lot of that is in Black Power, Black Lawyer. But it's my personal story too. So there's some personal stuff up in there as well
Yes.
as political. So it's a comprehensive view, I guess you could say, of a young woman growing up during that time.
I love it. Where can people buy the book? Where can they get it, Nkechi?
Well, they can get it on the HO Amazon, but I like to steer folk to the black bookstores. There's
Yeah.
one in particular online called AALBC that stands for African American Literature Book Club. Actually, my book has been like a 10-time bestseller on AALBC,
Yeah.
aaalbc.com. They have all of my books. They have Black Power, Black Lawyer, and I have three children's books, Shining Legacy, The Adventures of Kojo and Ama, and Three Tales of Wisdom. And they have pre-sales for my reparations book that will be coming out very soon called Reparations on Fire, How and Why It's Spreading Across America. So go to any black bookstore and ask for it, or you can go online to aaalbc.com.
And listen, I want to know, when do you get to sleep? Because all of this work you're doing, all this great work, I thought I was busy, Nkechi, fighting to get my 7 to 8 hours a night. When do you get to go to sleep, girl? Because you are out here killing it, working hard for the people.
I really appreciate that, but I really need to engage in more self care. That's
Yeah.
very important. That's very critical, so that we can continue doing the work that we do. And I just want to also give a shout out, if I can, that some of the people who wrote endorsements for my book. With Angela Davis, the infamous, the famous Angela Davis, Danny
Yeah.
Glover, the actor Danny Glover, James Foreman Jr., the son of the civil rights icon James Foreman, Sonia Sanchez, the
Oh,
poet, Nikki Giovanni. All these were people who influenced
yeah.
me. Julius Garvey, the son of the Honorable Marcus Garvey, Rukia Lumumba, the daughter of the current mayor of Jackson, Mississippi, Chokwe Lumumba. So I'm just grateful to all of them. I'm grateful to people like you, Sharrarne, who help to uplift the stories of the skin deep,
Yes. Yes,
shall we say.
girl.
And I need to get some of that self care.
Yes, we all do. We all do. Otherwise, we won't be able to continue to uplift, right? We got to take care of ourselves first. What do the airline stewardesses tell us when we get on the plane? When
Put
the
that
when the
mask on first.
you got to put it on yourself first. So yes, you got to get some rest so that you can keep uplifting the people. Listen, my last question for you, Nkechi, what do you see yourself doing in 5 years that you haven't already done yet, girl? I'm hoping you'll say relax on some beautiful
Say on
beach.
some beach. I like to be able to say relax on some beach, but um, I actually would like to sit back and watch the seeds of everything that I helped to plant come to fruition. When I talk
Oh,
about reparations in my lifetime, the young people are doing it. That was a young woman that ended up bringing justice to the landowners, the descendants of the landowners of Bruce's Beach in
yeah,
California. I mean, they're young people who are taking
doing
this issue to
yeah.
another level. And what I just hope they do is just read my works, just as I sat at the feet of my elders, that they sit at the feet of people, elders who are in their midst as well, so that we can go in and stand on each other's shoulders and continue the struggle.
Well, I'm so glad that you came on Skin Deep, Nkechi. I've been wanting you to be here on the show for a long time, as I mentioned earlier. Glad I got you on here. You're doing God's work, and I just appreciate all that you do. And listen, tell everybody again where they can find you on social media.
Yes, you can find me on social media, Facebook, Nkechi Taifa, on Twitter, Nkechi_Taifa, on Instagram, Nkechi Taifa, on LinkedIn, Nkechi Taifa. It's Nkechi Taifa all over. My website, www.nkechitaifa.org. And if you start typing it in, it might just come up. So just start that NKE, I'm all over the place. I'm an
Yeah,
open book.
you are. You are. Thank you again, Nkechi. I appreciate it. That's it for now, folks. I'm your host, Sharrarne Morton, here again with civil and human rights scholar, activist, and author Nkechi Taifa, giving us the 411 on reparations and justice for Black folks, not just here in America, all over the world. Listen, I hope you love today's show. You can hear it on SiriusXM Radio, channel 141, on Fridays, Saturdays, and Sundays, as well as on iTunes, Spotify, and all the streaming platforms. And email me at skindeepradioshow@gmail.com or go to SharronneMorton.com and let me know what you think about the show. Thanks again for tuning in on all things that are skin deep.